Left back for Fulham. I can't remember his name. Left back for Fulham. No. Left back for Sessegnon.
Chris
Baird. No. Ex Cardiff. No.
Not Chris Baird though.
No, ex Huddersfield. Ex Huddersfield. Ex Cardiff. Ex Bristol City. Oh, it's going to come to me. It's annoying me. I meant to say you the other week. No. I meant to say to you the other week about it. Anywho.
Which
well, how many is there?
Well, there's been a few down the years, yeah. What year?
No, recently. It's going to really annoy me.
Scott Malone.
Yeah, Scott Malone. That's it. Scott Malone. That is Scott Malone. Good shout. Scott Malone. I meant to say the other day, I was like, that is Scott Malone. It's a good looking like. You have a little Google. While we're doing this, have a little Google, and in the background you can do that thing, you just go. Right, start filming now, if you wish.
Housekeeping out of the way first. Obviously, players coming back and stuff. What's the situation with some of your internationals and some of your injured players and guys who played behind closed doors?
Yeah, starting with the two injuries, you'll know, obviously, even though it's sort of out of hands, was John Walters. That's settling. It's your longer term situation, but that's settling down. Wardy, unfortunately, has had a sort of a tidy up in his knee and a washout, if you like, on his knee. Excuse me. So that we'll wait and see, but that's not going to be days. Obviously, that's going to be weeks. So we'll wait and see with that one. Better news with Stephen, although he's been injury free, by the way, but what I mean is he got another 90 in earlier in the week, which is great. We managed to arrange a game just to make sure he's fit and well, which he is. Robbie came through that as well, 90 minutes, his first 90 minutes actually, because he's been close to 90 minutes and we just had to either take him off or he's just felt a little niggle. The last one was his hamstring, but he was clear. That doesn't give him, that we're not going to clear him for this week or any of that, but what I mean is that's another great, step forward. I think that's the main. Oh, and Popey, of course. Popey's out on the grass working with Billy Mercer, but tentatively working with Billy Mercer, just doing hands and getting handling going, not flying around at this stage, but he's going along very well at the moment.
So those players that might perhaps potentially be involved, or in your thoughts, Stephen, the more likely of all of them?
Yeah, there's only really Stephen, out of the ones we just went through, who's close to being back into, real work. He's obviously played in the cup game, and we had to be a bit careful with that. Just commonsensically careful. He feels fine, by the way. It's as much us being careful. But he's training really well, and he certainly looks, his eye looks in at the moment. So we look forward to having him back, and he's more or less there now.
Did the break come at the right time? Because I
think they have done this season for different reasons. I think with the game schedule and these injuries and needing time to get. Oh, Ben Gibson's the one we missed out. He's joining in training, and hopefully we'll get a game next week, a reserve game behind closed doors game. So back to the breaks, I think it's slightly different this year. Normally you can never decide, do you need it, do you not need it, I found, but in this one we definitely do. Players played a lot of football. The limits with our squad with the injuries have meant players have played even more football. Jeff Hendricks played a heck of a lot of football and international football. So, and even them guys, when we can, we've given them the odd extra day off and the odd day's recovery, and tried our best to make sure that they're fully fueled up, ready for the games. So I think the international breaks have been useful for us so far this season.
We've just been talking to Ben, and he talked about the process of deciding to stay on and sign a new deal. How important is a figure? I'm sure you were asked this straight afterwards, but in terms of your defence, and maybe the guy doesn't get recognition because he hasn't an international call-up, how important is Ben Mee for here?
Well, in the international thing, I think there has been, sort of noises about should he be considered? I think he should be. And he has been somewhat, I think. But I think, probably considered a bit more seriously. But that's for others to decide, by the way. But I do think he's a very, very good centre-back. I think he's developed himself, let alone what we've helped him with, into a not only a solid centre-back, but a solid professional, very manly in the way he goes about his business, and his professional manner. But around these parts, don't forget, including some of you watch us quite a bit and write about us or whatever, he does get some respect, and rightly so. He's earned the right, I think.
But it almost seems from the outside that the guys alongside him play better because they're playing on, Michael Keane, James Tarkowski.
Yeah, well, that I think that's the only thing that he sometimes is probably looked upon as the sort of solid type, while the others, catch the eye a bit more. But I like defenders who defend, which he does. He punches well above his weight physically in a game that is probably less. Don't get me wrong; it's probably less relevant now to be a monster. It's helpful, I think, as a centre back, but I don't think it's absolutely relevant. But he punches well above his size, and the way he goes about that side of things, and he can play probably better than I think. Better than most think. Sorry, I think he can play technically better than most think. Another one you got to remember his background at Man City and. Brought up playing as well as defending. So I think he's got a healthy balance to his game.
And preparing for a game like City, do you look at the league games you played and the FA Cup games you played? I mean, you half an hour there, you were matching them in the Premier League, and you took the lead, in the Cup game, didn't you?
Yes, I mean, you don't reflect too much on the past, but we know how good they are. Everyone knows that. It's not that one's not hard to work out. You don't have to tell too much to your players about they're a good side, no matter what side they play. I think you go into these games open, or we certainly go into these games open-minded. We know the challenge, we know the statistics, we know the good side that they are, and all the stuff that everyone talks about. So it's you've got to. The players know that. We do make them aware with a bit more depth to that generalisation, if you like, with a bit more detail in the analysis. But equally, we've got to go out and take on the game, which we have done. We continue to do that, I think. And I think that's been a big marker for us. There's only been a couple of blips this season, a couple I put down to fatigue. And over the last few seasons, we've been competitive, at least competitive in every game. And I think that's a key marker for us to go there with a competitive mindset.
And when you look at it kind of defensively, what you're up against, is Aguero the best that you come up against in terms of a striker?
He's certainly one of. Because it's funny when you're a manager, because it might be an individual game can be different to when you're watching them play someone else. But he's definitely up there. I think there's a number of players there. Over the last few years of the Premier League, I think they've got a handful of players there have been fantastic. Kevin De Bruyne's obviously, he's grown into his life at Man City nicely, it's fair to say. But they've got firepower all over the place, so I don't think it's about them two. I think there's many other good players there.
And Joe goes back for the first time and plays against them. I mean, I think they're going to make a big fuss of him by the sounds of it. They're naming a training pitch after him.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, I mean, I think to be fair for Joe, if you take away all the noise and some of the outside sort of inferences, I've never really spoke to Joe about it too much. I don't think there's ever been any real problem, with him, the manager, or definitely not the club. Everyone knows what a good servant he's been there, and been a big part of what their pretty recent history has been. We're happy to have him here. He's done very well for us, but he did very well from there. And if they are recognise him in that way, which I did hear about, then fantastic. It's good for him. It's a nice little honour for him.
The final one from me,
classy one as well from them as well, I think.
33-1 you are to win.
Really?
Yeah.
The next line, but I'm not allowed to say it.
No, I know.
So I'm not allowed to.
Similar odds to sunshine on a Thursday afternoon in Burnley.
I thought you were going to say sunshine on a rainy day then. The song?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I wonder what's going on there.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that. I didn't know that. That's the way it goes, isn't it? It's... I think the thing about the Premier League, the thing we do know with the vast riches some of these clubs are, you are probably going to get odds like that. And not just for us, by the way, on different stages of the season, different games, because the gap. We all know the gap now. The gap in finance is absolutely astronomical, and usually, not always, that means a club can buy arguably the best players in Europe, the world nowadays. That's the way it goes, and that often leads to odds like that. But odds don't win a football match, remember.
Just looking at City, Sean, this City team compared to previous sides, obviously last year they hit some incredible heights. How do you compare them now to maybe where they were last year? Are they better? Are they the same? Are they worse? What do you think?
Well, they're going about their business in the right manner, that's for sure. The one thing they will be is more experienced from what went on last season and the way they've dealt with last season, and compared to the season before. Not all the players were there, but a lot. And I think their knowledge will be enhanced from last season, of what they need to do to go about it again. So I think they'll know games like ours are as important as any, because at the end of the day it's 3 points, so they'll definitely be fighting for that. It's easier in a way for us because it's obvious we have to take on the challenge. You can't go there and not be up for the challenge because they're top class, so you have to be on top of your game. That's our main focus. We can't guarantee results against any of these top sides, but what we can do is look to at least push towards us giving a proper performance in our manner to affect the game, and that gives you at least a start, because if you're not on top of your game, then these sort of sides hurt you.
Yeah, speaking to people after playing at the Etihad, they've sort of said the only way to beat City in their eyes is to stay rigid, to keep compact, to have real structure in your side, and to sort of try and sit back and then counter when you get the opportunity. And when you do counter, be absolutely ruthless. Is that, in your mind,
Sounds
the only
easy,
way
that,
to do
no?
it? When you put it like that,
Yeah. I'll just send you in.
Yeah.
I'll just do your job, and you can go in the dressing room and say, right, we're going to do exactly what you've just said.
Okay, yeah.
We're going to sit back. We're going to be ruthless, as your word was. We're going to be tight, compact. And when we counter, then we're definitely going to be ruthless, and we're going to take all them counter-attack chances, and we're going to win. That's it in a nutshell. Genius from you, and that's exactly what I'm going to tell him, and it's going to work.
So
now, if it does, you know, there'll be people going, "He said it,
yeah.
Genius." Next,
I'll be claiming it definitely.
Next week they'll be saying, "Get
2-0 Burnley." That was me. That.
Yeah, it's no, joking apart. There's different ways teams have tried to operate against these, home and away. Including ourselves, you know, we'll operate in a way that we think can affect the game, and I think that's the key thing. You've got to affect the game, but it is difficult. You know, as you rightly said, it is difficult. You know, teams go there with different game plans, and you know, before you play a game, any game this is, but particularly against these sort of sides, you go there and that'll work, and then sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it does, of course. No one would have thought we would have got the 2-2 when we were 2-0 down there a number of years ago. No one would have thought that, and at the end of the game, we deserved it, you know. So, can you operate? Yes. Probabilities and possibilities, probably. They, over a season, get the upper hand on teams like us, but possibly they don't. That's what you work on in football, you know, because we're finding ways to win. You know, I've been fortunate in my past, although I was a journeyman player, I played in lots of sides. I had very good cup runs, very good performances, beat some big teams at certain times. It doesn't really give me an upper hand, by the way, but what it does, it means it can be done. You know, I've actually played in it. I've actually witnessed it. So I think we are a Premier League side. We are there for a reason. So we take it on and see what happens.
Just speaking about Joe again, have you noticed any difference in him this week in terms of going back to Manchester City? Because it'll be the first time that he's played against. No,
he's very experienced now, Joe. He's played in enough big games of different sorts. I understand what you point. Obviously, it's a different kind of emotion when it's a club you've got a big history with and a recent history, obviously. But I don't think. I think you just want to get on with it. You know, go and play and get on with playing and not really overthink it.
You don't think he'll feel like he'll have a point to prove because of the recent history?
He's got no point. I didn't bring him here to prove a point even to anyone. In my opinion, he's another top-class goalkeeper that we've got here. Another one, by the way, because I like the others as well. I think they're all top-class. I don't think it, personally speaking, I don't want to speak for him, but I wouldn't imagine if he's got any point to prove, I don't see why, other than to himself. And that is to continue to show what a top-class goalie he is.
Thanks, Sean.
Sean, were you ever not concerned, maybe, but did you wonder why Joe slipped off? Because even by his own kind of admission at West Ham, that didn't work. Torino didn't work. Did you understand why that was?
No, I think from a manager's point of view, there can be different reasons. You know, sometimes you just fit at a club. Sometimes I had it myself down my career, and you know, I didn't have a highbrow career, but I had it. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Just naturally, I mean, forget about tactics and that. Sometimes you just go into a club and it just fits. You can almost sense that you fit. Maybe he didn't at them clubs, I don't know. Again, I didn't really, you know, when we signed him, I spoke to him, but I didn't speak to him about all of that. I wasn't interested in that. I was speaking to him about him getting back to being a top-class goalie, how we could aid that, what he could do for us, how I thought he'd enjoy what we are and what we do. That was really what I spoke to him about, you know, not about... He'll know of his own history, and he's certainly bright enough and professional enough to know and make sense of his recent history. Mine's more about the future. You know, what can he bring? Maybe some of what he's learned from his history. What can he actually bring to affect us? So that's what I was really speaking to him about.
But you must have seen, like everybody else, that he wasn't performing to the standards that people associate with him, and you were the one that gave him a contract. You had to commit, so you clearly believed that he could get that back.
Well, let's have it right. Forgetting about the circumstances, because he started off his journey here with circumstances, with Tom and Popey, injury circumstances, obviously. Beyond that, then, as regards thinking he's anything other than top-class keeper, I was pretty sure of that. Now, to get him to maybe find that again in the level he's been at, a lot of that is down to him. I think he works with a really good goalie coach here, and Billy Mercer, and a group of goalies. But a lot of that is you finding yourself what you are. But I must say, even particularly as a goalie, actually, you know, when you're in a, sometimes it's what's in front of you helps. You know, a goalkeeper, it's a double-edged sword when you, because I was a centre back, and you want a keeper that you can look at and think, right, you know, at the worst he's going to look after us, and he wants a back four or a defensive unit, probably the whole of the team actually, that he can, you know, grow in faith with. At the moment, there's a nice little connection, I think, between the two. Possibly at other clubs he didn't find that connection. I don't know. But what I do know is, well, what I saw is still a top-class keeper. And a lot of credit to him to find his way again, because that's what football's about. We can only guide people, you know, and guide them back to where they want to be. It's whether they go and grip it. And at the moment, he certainly is.
Is it helpful having someone with his experience, someone who's played for England so many times, someone who's won league titles? Is it helpful having someone like that in your squad?
Well, it certainly can't not help. It has to be helpful.
In terms of the impact that he has with the other players?
I think he'd rub off in the right manner. I think he's got a good professional manner about him and the way he is with the group. But I don't think, there's not a guarantee with that. You know, some players are quite insular, even though they've done all them things. Joe's not. He's quite a lively character, and he fits in well with what we're about here. You know, forgetting about football, forgetting about just playing. I mean, the atmosphere around the group, the culture, the environment, he fits in well with that. But if he does rub off, and when he does rub off on others, well, that's great. You know, we want that. We want sort of leader types, if you like. Now, however that leadership is, it's not in the old days of sort of the captain, you know, grabbing players by the scruff of the neck and a growl and being a lively character. That is still there. Harder to find now. So there are more leaders you get on a pitch in their own way. Some you get lead by example and how they go about it. Some quiet, you know, but they still prod and push people in the right direction. Some are vibrant and lively, which Joe is. He's quite lively around the group and around the dressing room. I think you need a mixture now, and he certainly is part of that mix.
Thank you.
Tom, there was a few comments from Tom Heaton this week saying that he might have to sort of think about his future if he's not playing. I'm sure you understand his frustration, so where do you sort of see his position?
Well, firstly, I thought he spoke very well, because he's a fantastic professional, and I expect him to do that. And, you know, and that's why, or a big part, why he's club captain, not just for his performances, for his whole professional manner. I think he's just telling the truth. It's being realistic. Me and Tom go back a long way, as everyone knows. He's my first signing here, actually. Excuse me. So we've certainly got an open dialogue about what goes on. He's been very, very unfortunate. That's where it's started with his shoulder, and then on the way back got injured again, whilst Popey got injured again, don't forget. And we had to make a decision. I had to make a decision on that. But he's a top-class pro, and in due course, whatever needs to be worked out, we'll find a way of working it out.
So will you be sort of trying to persuade him he's got a future here, or if he wasn't playing? He knows for as long as he can know that he's got a future here. It's just what part of that future is right for him and for us, but, you know, mainly for him at this stage. You know, how's he feeling about it? When does his chance come? Football changes very, very quickly. The keepers, it's more difficult because it can be a longer, you know, situation. But as we've seen with Tom and then with Popey, it just changes like that. So, you know, I don't want anything bad to happen to anyone here, but it just sometimes changes. So nothing's done at this moment in time. I just thought he gave an honest view of the bigger picture. Yeah, and it's obviously not a million.
Excuse me.
So is it sustainable to have the three that
We'll soon see.
Just on before as well, how much have you kind of missed him over what's been like nearly a year, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he's a very good player. Everyone knows that. I think he was really coming into his own last season. He was really making strides for himself and for the side. But behind that, he knows he's got a competitive element. You know, the other midfield players have done well over that sort of nearly season that he's been out. So he'll have to earn the right first. But it's fair to say he's a very good player.
And maybe you bring something a bit different, isn't it? Is that sort of a little bit maybe what you've been missing?
I think it's helpful. You know, the more good players you've got, then the more helpful it is. I'm going to have to stop talking now because my throat's going to go.
Camera's off.